Good day, friends. Welcome to Coffee Break. Yes, get your coffee. Matapang na kape. This is Dr. Michelle Alignay for our weekly episode on Coffee Break with Dr. Michelle. So magandang hapon sa inyo. Hope you're doing well. How are you this, well, in on my part of town, it's like a rainy, gloomy Friday afternoon. I don't know with you. Tell me where you're coming from. Tell me if you're working from home. Ayan, somebody's watching from Albay. Hello, RD. And then tell me where you are and tell me what are you doing. I gathered over, some discussions with friends. At marami pala, habang naka-work from home, or minsan nasa opisina naman sila, habang nagkatrabaho, nakikinig na coffee break. And that makes me feel, you know, that this is really part of your weekly routine. I hope that you don't mind that it's really a weekly thing now because of the many things that I have in my plate. But I really try my best to. Oh, we have a friend from Sultan Kudarat. Hello, Marichu. I really try my best to go live. I really try my best to do something that every time that I will think na, wag na lang kaya ako mag-live, wag na lang kaya ako mag-coffee break. But I would like to reflect that um, on the little, on the little things that I'm doing maybe for 30 minutes, like here, para tayo nagkikwentuhan, it's actually something that will help you and will help myself in the process. Akala nyo kayo lang natututo, kayo lang nag-grow. Ako rin, it's an invitation for me to reflect. It's an invitation for me to think about things. Okay, ang topic natin ngayon is family stress and role clarity. Magkakabit sila. So I think that this is not something that we talk about, right? um, when we talk about the people that in our families, the people in our relationship, um, ano yung bagay na nakaka-stress sa inyo sa relasyon? Sa relasyon sa pamilya, ano yung nakaka-stress? You think that is it for example, is it the finances that's really stressful? Or is it the dealing with the people around you regarding the finances? Yon. Is it a decision that it's making a decision in life that's stressful? Or is it really managing the personalities, dealing with different people, or hindi mo alam na decision mo, akin ba to? Is this in my plate or this is not supposed to be in my plate? Ako ba to or ikaw? Ayan. So, yan yung gist of, that's the message of our conversation, di ba? So, kunin nyo na yung sarap yung kape. I would like to thank my husband for my brewed coffee. Okay. So, ngayon, so thank you, RD, Marichu, Eileen, Yami. I hope you're fine, my love. Wally, yan. It's a big matter for us when you go live. Maraming salamat po. Maraming salamat. So ngayon, mag-usap tayo. Friends, yung tanong ko, sagutin nyo. When we have, sorry, I just need to fix something. When we have family issues, when we have family matters, ano ba yung nakaka-stress? Yung external na kailangan asikasuhin? Or is it actually the dynamics in the relationship? Yung mga paano mag-interplay yung relationship sa loob? Ano doon yung mas stressful sa inyo? Because we're talking about family stress. And it happens. And when we talk about stress, it's actually uh, napakalawak ng salitang stress, no? But looking at family stress, stress come and go in our family. Each day we are confronted by stress, either external stress or internal stress, and that's why we need to look into it. Daily pressure stress can be also considered as the daily pressure we encounter. It can be physiological stress or yung ating physical stress or psychological stress. Diyan papasok ang ating mental health, diyan papasok ang ating emotional well-being, and also it can be social stress or socio-cultural stress, yung mga nangyayari sa labas natin. Mga bagay na wala tayong, sometimes we're not in control of those things. So, what about you? And isama natin dyan sa daily pressure we encounter, the kinds of stress that we encounter, sama natin dyan sa psychological stress, we include there our family life, our relationships. Doon natin papasok ang ating mga relasyon, karelasyon. So, yesterday, this is the topic that I discussed with my psych students now. So, I really asked them what are the things that happen to their family, what are the stressful um, things, the problems, the concerns that they encountered during the past 2 years, during the pandemic. And maybe I would like to to ask the same thing. So, i-capture nyo yan. Tingnan nyo, ano nga ba yung big thing that we dealt with during the pandemic. And it's very important. But I would like you to look at, we're going to look into another angle ng stress. This is not about well-being. I always talk about well-being, but I like, bakit doc may role clarity? Kasi madalas, the stress in the family happens because of the dynamics in the relationship. Minsan there's no clarity, minsan there's what actually, a term that I'll introduce today, there is such thing as role ambiguity, a boundary ambiguity. When we say ang big word, boundary, alin dyan yung sa akin, alin dyan yung sa'yo. Alin dyan yung malinaw, alin dyan yung malabo. So, the opposite of ambiguity is clarity. Parang it's so ambiguous. Parang you really cannot define anything. And ito na lang yan. Ano ba yan, Doc? Ano ba naman yung role ambiguity na yan? Boundary ambiguity. For example, you have to make a decision in the family. Sometimes the problem happens not because of the decision to be made, but because nobody would like to step up. Because there's no clarity of roles. So halimbawa there's no clarity of roles. So sino ba talaga yung mag-iisip, sino mag-execute, sino maggagawa ng desisyon, sino kakausap dito, sinong didiskarte. So, there's lack of clarity. And when that happens, nag-iintayan, nag-a-assume, nag-iisip, nagpapakiramdaman, and there's lack of connection, lack of conversation about it, the more that there is stress and pressure that happens. So a simple problem, for example, making a decision kung saan magpapagamot ang isang member ng family na nagkasakit. So will we go for conventional doctors, or will we go for this type of hospital, or ayaw-ayaw niya talaga na susundin ba natin yung gusto ni nanay or ni daddy kasi ayaw niya talaga dyan. So who will be the one to take charge? And isama mo pa na may mga family members parang wala sa pamilya. You know what I mean? Yun yung mahirap. Yung parang maaasahan mo ba siya? And that's where a lot of stress happens because there's supposed to be clarity. The only way for family to cope better, for the family to manage stress, the family to manage any difficult circumstances in the family, is that ideally, everybody would take part in making a decision. Everybody has a role. Ikaw taga ganito, ikaw taga ganyan. And all of the family members are intact, or um, all of the family members are moving. May taga-isip, may taga-execute, may taga-evaluate, may taga-follow up. But sometimes that does not happen, tama? In the Filipino family, ang isa sa kultura natin ay mahilig tayong mag-assume. Kasi meron tayong mataas ang tingin din natin minsan sa panganay, or maybe the emotional eldest in the family. Our tendency is that we just assume that they would take charge. We just assume na may gagawa naman, or naiintayan kung may gagawa ng desisyon and nobody is taking charge. Kasi minsan, when somebody takes charge, wala nang kumikilos. Ayaw na natin makialam kasi minsan pag nakialam ka, ikaw pa yung mapapasama. Pag may ginawa ka, may sasabihin pa yung iba. You understand what I mean? Can you relate with the things that I'm saying? So, I would like you to assuming talaga tayong mga Pinoy. Yes, we assume, 'di ba? We assume na kala ko alam mo na. 'Di ba? We tend to assume that akala ko alam mo na. Hindi ba nasabi sa So we don't directly talk to the people. For example, just between the adult child and the parents, hindi ba sinabi sa ni ate or ni kuya na ganyan? Hindi. So inassume natin na alam ng isa. So so we don't directly communicate with the other person. For some reason, hindi tayo talaga confrontative. And because we're not confrontative in nature, that affects actually this kind of role clarity because we tend to assume, alam mo na yan, kahit yung pagsabi ng I love you. So, let's look at yung sinasabi kong role ambiguity. Bakit siya nagiging problema? Role ambiguity or boundary ambiguity. When you say boundary, hanggang dito ka lang. Ito ang role mo. Ikaw taga ganyan. Kung halimbawa, in the family, malinaw sa lahat, kung 5 kayong miyembro ng pamilya, or 5 o 6 kayong nasa bahay, kung malinaw sa inyo kung sinong tagahugas ng pinggan ng breakfast, lunch, dinner, tapos yung tatlo naman tagaluto, taga-prepare ng breakfast, lunch, at dinner, tapos meron dyan tagalinis ng gantong araw, meron tagalaba, meron taga-plancha, may taga-asikaso ng dogs, tagalabas ng basura sa gabi, tagalinis ng bahay ng ganitong oras. If there's clarity kung sinong gagawa, will there be stress as you go with the flow of daily life? And I would like to ask you that. If there is clarity and the expectations are made clear on what each family member is supposed to do, you think that it's going to be stressful? Stressful ba na may chores? Alam nyo, hindi stressful minsan ang chores. Ang mas stressful is, nag-a-assume tayo na may gagawa. Or nag-a-assume we're wanting that somebody would step up, but nobody is stepping up. So which is much stressful? The chores or the task itself or the lack of clarity? Tell me. I'll wait for your answers. Which is much stressful? Is it the chores, the task itself, or is it the lack of clarity and the dynamics of the relationship? Alin dito yung mas stressful? Talaga iniintay ko yung sagot nyo. Yun. So, walang sumasagot. Pinag-iisip ko ba kayo? So, that is called, and let's look at what is boundary ambiguity, no? So, lack of clarity about whether one, ayan, tama Bell, tama Cherry, tama Yami, Marichu, lack of clarity. So, when we come to think of it, uh, lack of clarity about whether ang pinakamahirap is that kung meron ng roles pero may isang miyembro ng pamilya na hindi mo alam kung ano yung status. In some families, ideally, there's clarity. Many families, ideally, there's clarity. O yan, for example, Noreen is saying, you're good, naka-Google file pa para smooth. That works for you, but some family, it will not work that way. For example, ako, I'm not gonna do that because that's too much for me to think about. But we're just clear who's gonna pitch in with this and that. We are clear with our two kids who's gonna do this task. Para we know what to expect from each other. But, in some families, sadly, there is lack of clarity kasi minsan, this is the big word that I would like you to think about. Hindi mo alam if that person is in and out of the family. You don't know if that person is in and out of the family. What do I mean? We have family members. Maybe not in your immediate family, not in your nuclear family, but maybe in your extended family. Hindi mo alam kung they're inside or outside. Doc, what do you mean by that? Because some of them, they don't want to make a decision. They just expect you to make decisions, but they would like to be the recipient of that decision. Hindi ba? So parang yung ito lang yan. So pag lack of clarity, kaya delikado rin yung MU. The mutual understanding that the young ones are into. Why is mutual understanding is tricky? Because there is lack of boundary. There's boundary ambiguity. Hindi mo alam kung nasa labas sila ng buhay ng isa't isa or nasa loob. You don't know if they're committed or they're not committed. And how do we explain that? We explain that in terms of physical and psychological and presence or absence. Remember these four terms: physical and psychological and presence and absence. Diyan nagkakaroon ng stress. Diyan nagkakaroon ng concern. Are you with me? So here, when we say, paano nagkakaroon ng ambiguity? Paano nagkakaroon ng problema? Physical presence, you know that the actual person is at home. Alam natin na nandyan siya. They're existing, nakatira sa bahay. But sometimes, there are some family members, they are at home with us, but they cannot function psychologically. Parang nakikikain lang sa bahay. I don't know if you know what I mean. It's the presence of physically, they're present, physically, psychological, this physical presence, they're present in the family physically, but psychologically, you cannot expect them to pitch in some decisions, to make an effort to help out in the family. Parang let's just say that they just don't want to be involved. They're not engaged in the family. Parang you just cannot rely on them. Let's be blunt about it. And when we say psychological presence, is that the involvement or the engagement of that person in the family. So the person may not be there, the person may be there, and but the person has an influence also on tama na rin, parang border lang. So yung psychological presence, for example, this person, na maaasahan siya when it comes to family gathering. So psychologically, during weekends or during family celebrations, you know that this person can be can be regarded or can be we can rely on that person. So there's the psychological presence. Or for critical situations, and when we would like to pray for something, the influence of your mom and is very crucial when it comes to prayer. So there's a psychological presence. So where does the problem happen? So when you come to think of it, psychological and physical and then present and absent, nangyayari yung problema kung there's low stress if the person is physically present and psychologically present. In short, they are inside the family. Literally, physically, I'm in. Psychologically, I'm in also. Nakakatulong ako, nandito ako, hindi ako border lang. Makikikain ako, pero makikihugas ako ng pinggan. Makikikain ako, may desisyon ako, pero magko-contribute ako sa welfare ng family. Either it's time, talent, or treasure. That's clear, right? So there's no stress if there's less family stress because it's very clear that the person is inside physically and psychologically. Are you getting me, friends? Can you press heart if you get what I'm saying here? So that is physical and psychological. So the stress in the family is low. So hindi ambiguous. There's role clarity, and there's clarity in the involvement of the family member. So what when does it become problematic? Another area is that there are some family members umalis na lang. Sabi ng iba, ang tawag nga ng iba ng ibang bahay, or yung iba, of course, they passed away already. So, they are physically absent and maybe they're psychologically absent. Walang stress doon. Walang stress doon kasi ibig sabihin, alam mo na nawala at naka-move on ka na sa buhay kahit wala siya. So, low, low physical, low, sorry, not low. There's physical absence and there's psychological absence. There's no problem because you know that the person is no longer in the family. Umalis, nakipaghiwalay. Ito yung madalas na tanong. Means when I was a guidance counselor, a lot of moms would say, a lot of parents, narinigan ko, they don't want to separate from maybe their husband, their spouse, simply because ayaw naman daw nila na walang tatay or kulang yung family na makagisna ng anak nila. Is that healthy or not? Well, if you look at it in the traditional view, oh, that's sad. But if you look at it when it comes to the stress level in the family, ay nako, it brings more harm than good. And this is the question that I always ask those people that I dealt with over the years. What would you rather have? What would you rather have? A family may not be complete, but you know that you are strong and you know that you can function better because the person who's a burden to many, kahit nandyan, wala naman siyang pakinabang. Psychologically, physically present, but psychologically, they're not with you. They're not involved. They're not engaged. So, but it's just a burden for many. So, it becomes a toxic pattern. Or, if you're very clear na wala na siya sa buhay nyo, and you can just start picking up the pieces. So, di ba, kayo anong pipiliin nyo? Nandyan nga psychologically, nandyan nga physically, pero psychologically, there's no relationship. Walang effort sa relasyon. parang pinapakain mo lang siya pero talagang may sarili na siyang buhay or baka nga may iba pa na siyang affairs. Or you would like to grow and you would like to recover and you just would like to move on with your life na okay, wala na siya. Let's come on kids, come on everyone, let's just do something and go beyond the circumstances. So it's for minsan sabi ko nga, I'd rather be a person complete in myself and give it to my kids than I'm relying on someone who's not actually psychologically present in my life. Does that make sense? Are you still here, friends? Nandito pa ba kayo? So, I would like you to reflect about that. So, kailan na nagkakaroon talaga ng boundary ambiguity kung yung tao hindi mo alam kung nasa loob pa. The problem and the stress happens when the person is physically present but psychologically absent. What do you mean by that? Oh, yan nandyan nga. Tama. Parang border na lang siya. Physically absent and then that's more stressful. Kasi, di-decision mo na yan. Di ba minsan parang, oh, ano daw ang gusto niya? Hindi niyo maintindihan kasi he's not dealing. They can be existing in the family but there's no relationship. There is no psychological relationship. So that is so stressful and that can be very toxic. Another angle is that wala na nga siya sa pamilya nyo pero ang lakas ng kanyang impluensya na feeling nyo. So the person may be physically absent but psychologically present. Parang he or she got a hold on everyone in the family that the family cannot actually make a decision if we're going to do it because that person will might bark at us. Maybe malayo siya, nasa abroad, pero siya pa rin yung gumagawa ng desisyon kung ano yung nangyayari sa loob ng bahay. So that can be very stressful also. Diba friends, try to reflect about that. Try to reflect about that. Where are you? So it's very clear that it's very important for you to check. I'm doing this just to help you check your family system, to check where you are. um, is there clarity in my family? Is there role clarity? Yung bang taong dapat nagdedesisyon? Is everyone involved? Or kanya-kanya kami lagi? Pag kanya-kanya kayo lagi, there's chaos. But if one person controls the family, there's rigidity. So it has to be that everyone has a role to take. Everyone has a contribution to make. And that is very critical as if we move forward and manage the daily stress. Stress is normal part of family. Pressure, decision making, challenges, new things to work on to. Lahat 'yan kailangan nating i-deal with every day. But if we know who's in charge of this, we know, we're very clear na okay, sino gagawa nito? So okay, this is a stressful time, this is a challenging situation, who would do this, who would do that. So you have to remember, uh, kailangan natin mas maging clear. That's why I really entitled the topic family stress and role clarity, because role clarity it's very very critical. So let's look on some of the last points that I'll share that I'll share. We have to wait, I'm checking my thing. You have to remember when pag boundaries sa family are clear. The roles in the family are clear. There's boundary kung sino ka, sino ko, eto sa'yo, eto sa akin. When family boundaries are clear, the family experiences lower stress. They're not actually so stressed at all. Boundary ambiguity, meaning there's no clear kung alin dyan yung lupa mo sa lupa niya, alin dyan yung jurisdiction mo sa jurisdiction niya. Boundary ambiguity causes stress over and above the stress of the events. Kaya ako ito yung sinabi, minsan, hindi naman stressful yung sitwasyon. Ang stressful is the dynamics of the people around us. And you have to remember the term, physical presence psychological absence can be stressful, and physical absence and psychological presence can be also stressful. So you have to check the family members. Who is your family? Is anyone missing from the family right now? Anyone who's psychologically absent but physically present, yan. Who performs the role? Which roles do you need to play? Alin dyan yung wala talagang nagdidesisyon? Alin dyan yung parang, ay, kaya pala siya na-burn out, kaya pala siya na-burden, puro na lang siya nagdidesisyon kasi nobody would like to step in the family. And you have to make an inventory also kung alin dyan yung makakatulong, kung alin dyan yung mga bagay na kailangan yung pag-isipan at gawa ng paraan. Who's included in the family rituals and celebrations? Who is not included? Kasi minsan, gusto natin kasama lahat. Alam nyo, this pandemic also tested na minsan hindi naman mo kailangan yung buong extended family, yung buong angkan kasama. For me you have to balance having the all of the angkan, the extended family, have rituals, but you also make sure that your little family have rituals together. You have to balance that because for all you know, when the kids are bigger, baka mak-realize nyo wala pala tayong sarili nating ritual at tradisyon na tayong maliit na pamilya. It's all connected to the maternal family or the paternal family. Wala tayong matatawag na atin. Kailangan meron. Because as parents, that's how we pass on some things. So sometimes really, it's not wrong. It's not wrong to have the extended family in gatherings, but you just have to balance it with what is it for you in your small family. Clarity in family boundaries is very important also after loss and after, childbirth, merong acquisition or merong additional member of the family, like may kinasal or nanganak, doon lang naman yon, di ba? Or kung merong loss in the family, reorganizing and restructuring is needed. Because pag may nangyaring change kahit na childbirth, pregnancy, childbirth, wedding, or getting married, and of course, death, lahat yan may kasamang stress. Kahit masaya or malungkot ang event, lahat yan may stress. So you have to reorganize, you have to restructure. And as adult parents, raising adult kids or teenage kids, kailangan tayong mas in charge dyan. And the thing for us is also we're dealing with our parents also, the sandwich generation. And sometimes family must sometimes make a decision or choice about whether the person is in and out of the family system, lalo na ngayon. Okay, hindi nagko-communicate yung kuya mo, hindi nagko-communicate yung ate mo, parang wala siyang pakialam sa atin, nakapambahay. So what do we do now? We have to make a decision. Wag na lang natin siya isama. Hindi na lang siya kasi nadidelay yung decision natin, nadidelay diskarte natin lahat dahil sa kanya. You know what I mean? You understand what I mean? So there's supposed to be, if that person who's making the family toxic, who's actually, toxic in herself or himself, cannot decide when the family and they're affecting the whole family system, you have to make a decision. Okay, wag na lang siyang kasama kasi wala naman siyang care, wala naman siyang pakialam. And sometimes there are people, 'di ba? Damn if you do, damn if you don't. Pag may ginawa ka, magagalit. Pag wala kang ginawa, nagagalit pa rin. So, let's just do this. You just have to make a decision on what is best for the health and the well-being of all family members. So, um, you have to really take care of the family boundaries because it can actually uh, it can actually clarify a lot of things. It can actually help the family define who they are. It can actually do more growth for each member. Meron lang akong isang note. This is not the topic, but naisip ko lang yun. Sabi mo na rin, minsan, ang bigat ng aura pag nandyan, kaya wag na lang. Yes, tama. Minsan, kailangan niyo siyang gawin because hindi niyo ba napansin, if there is a toxic person in the family, sometimes even our actions are being guarded by this psychologically absent person. Wala ka nang care, tapos gusto mo pa lahat, pag nandito ka sa bahay, tahimik kami, and we would bend to your wishes. But wala ka naman talagang contribution. So you have to, and sometimes the toxic person in the family is the one ruling the family system. Is it healthy or not? It's not. So you have to check. You have to make, this is where you need to make a decision. If you will not contribute to the welfare of this family, psychologically and or tangibly, you have to make a decision. Teka lang, bakit ikaw nagdidesisyon? Bakit ikaw yung nakakaapekto? Bakit ikaw pa yung nakakabigat sa aming lahat? And you have to make a decision. Either you step out or you make the person step out of the family. Hindi naman dahil sa masama at wala kang pake. Kaya lang, mag-cooperate ka rin sa amin. Kasi para lahat tayo mag-grow, lahat tayo maging maayos, para tulungan tayo sa lahat ng bagay. Because that's what families are for. So, alam nyo, itong family stress and role clarity, ito rin yung mga taong nang-ghosting at yung mga MU na hindi na nagpaparamdam, na nangiiwan sa ere, ito rin siya. Because there's no clarity. There's no clarity. So, friends, we have to be clear. Can you say that with me? Clarity is key. Can you say that? Can you type that in the chat? Clarity is key. You have to take care of your young family, your family of origin. So if your family of origin, meaning your parents, your siblings, has patterns na hindi maganda, you have to be aware of it now with the family that you're building so that you don't pass on the ambiguity, you don't pass on the toxicity to the family that you have right now. So I hope that this topic, parang dok ang broad, yung but family stress can also be addressed. Because kahit anong mangyari, kahit anong problema, kung malinaw naman na tayo'y pamilya, tayo nagtutulungan, di ba kaya? Pero kung meron kang may kapamilya na may problema na nga, sila pa yung dadagdag, ay, ayaw natin ng ganon. Doon tayo sa everybody is okay. That's the main reason why I chose this topic, family stress and role clarity, because we would like to support each other, we would like to be better together, and we would like to grow together. So I hope that this topic is helpful for you. And if you have insights, if you have comments, if you have learnings, please put that in the chat. I hope that you can also support Coffee Break here with Dr. Michelle through Facebook stars that you can find there. You can send stars through, of course, Facebook, or you can send me a message to get our Gcash details. So I hope that you join me again for another episode of Coffee Break. Next week, I'm going to go live again. And if you can, please look for me and my other Facebook, social media details. And of course, please get a copy of my book, You Can Care for You, The Soul and Science of Self-Care, available at Facebooks or in Facebooks, Lazada, and Shopee. And more importantly, I'll be part of the biggest Catholic inspirational learning event of the year, which is called the Feast Conference. All details of that are posted in my social media pages in Instagram and in Facebook. So that's about it. I hope to see you again. Thank you and God bless everyone. I hope clarity is key for you guys to support and love your family. God bless.